No matter what you want to do in life, there's going to be people that say you can and people that say you can't. If you want to get to Thailand, if you want to retire someplace different, if you want anything in life, you got to have a good set of beliefs to allow you to accomplish your goal and not let other people's beliefs get in the way. Some people have beliefs about what you can do, what you can accomplish, and what you can't. Having said that, you got to keep an open mind to getting your goals and outcomes from some way that you might not have imagined getting them. Now, somebody told me I couldn't do something, and I thought my life depended on it, so I had to do it. So I get a lot of requests for information, and most of the requests that I get is about retiring in Thailand. But every once in a while, people hear me talk or refer to something maybe in my past or something like that, and they want more information about it. Well, this posting in video is going to be about that. What am I talking about? My health and the history of my health. This is one of those situations where it really is always an option. So as you know, this channel is about me helping you to get from where you are now to where you want to be. And when it comes to living and retiring in Thailand, some of it has to do with getting your ducks in a row, so to speak. And I always say, get your ducks in a row before you get to Thailand. Don't wait. So that has to do with finances. It has to do with your mental state. And a lot of the videos I do is about being in the right state of mind to make a move to another culture, another country. And also I say, not only get your mind in shape, but get your body in shape as well. So I've mentioned before about my past and how when I was, 30 years ago, I guess now, I was diagnosed with a disease called Crohn's disease. So I won't go into the gory details about what Crohn's disease is and the symptoms and everything like that, because it's sort of a disease a lot of people don't want to talk about because of the area of the body that it affects. But I do need to give you a little bit of backstory. And what happened was in 1987, I did go into the doctor. There was a little bit of blood in my stool, and I was a little bit concerned about it, so I went to see a gastroenterologist. And he said, well, we need to know what's going on in your digestive tract, so we're going to do some tests. And I said, okay. Now, note that I wasn't in bad shape. Nothing was really a problem except I noticed a little bit of blood in my stool. So anyway, they give you a drug that cleans you all out, and then gives you what's called a barium enema, and take photographs of your intestinal tract, x-rays and things to see what's happening. And if you don't know, the difference between Crohn's disease and ulcerative colitis is where the digestive tract is being affected. And when I say affected, both of these diseases manifest into inflammation of the intestinal tract, and then what then becomes ulcerated, and you get a lot of bleeding, a lot of pain. So anyway, they said they wanted to do these tests. I said, sure, have at it. So when they did the test, all of a sudden I went into full-blown symptoms after these tests. And what I mean by that is, for the next 2 years, I couldn't leave my apartment that I was renting at the time at a beach, and I couldn't get more than, 15, 20 feet from a bathroom. I had to have a toilet. And when I did use a toilet, and I don't want to get gross, but like I said, bleeding is part of the symptoms, and it would just be like turning on a faucet. And I would roll around on the floor, and The prognosis was, well, we don't know how people get this, and we don't really have a cure for it. And so that's what I was facing. And like I said, for 2 years, I was in really, really bad shape. And I would go to see the gastroenterologist, and they would be prescribing what I consider mutant drugs. My wife at the time would say those contributed to our divorce because I couldn't work, I couldn't do anything. My finances blew right past zero. I sold everything I had to try and continue just to survive. So I found myself going through a divorce. It was mentally broke, spiritually broke, financially broke, and physically broke, all at the same time. And I felt like, well, why wake up tomorrow if this is what I'm going to face? And they say there's no cure for it. So I started thinking about this. And this is where it comes to how it relates to living in Thailand and stuff is, be careful what you believe, be careful what people tell you, including myself. Everybody's different. And your beliefs play a really, really important role in everything that you do, whether it's living in Thailand and being successful at that, losing weight, getting healthy, overcoming challenges in your life. It all comes down to a lot of the mental state that you're in at the time. So I started to think about this because I started thinking, well, these drugs that they were giving me, some were immune suppressive drugs, all sorts of anti-inflammatory, corticosteroids, all this stuff. I was thinking, well, I wonder how people dealt with this before we had these drugs. So I started to do some research on my own. And the more research I did, the more the pieces of the puzzle started to fit together. And I won't go into a lot of detail. I'll leave a link to a protocol that I've developed that will help people get over this. But basically what happened is I realized that the balance of the flora in the intestinal tract is symbiotic. We have bad bacteria and good bacteria. And the balance of those two, the symbiotic relationship, is really, really important. And if you throw that off in any way, shape, or form, it has to reestablish again back to normal, to the balance. And there's a large percentage of your stool every time you go to the bathroom that's bacteria. A very small amount is actually food. And so that bacteria plays a really important role. And there's a lot of things that can throw off that balance. You could be traveling to another country and get food poisoning, antibiotic therapy. There's a lot of things that can throw off that. In fact, antibiotics, originally, when people took antibiotics, there was also bacteria like acidophilus or something included in the capsule to balance out the decimation that was occurring by the antibiotics, but also to help replenish it. Of course, that wasn't cost effective, and they eventually eliminated that. Maybe because it wasn't cost effective, maybe because they figured, hey, if we create another problem, we can sell drugs. Now, when I say that, don't get mad at me, because I come from a family of medical background. My father was a pharmacist, so when I badmouth about the medical community or the big pharma and the money and what drives everything in the medical industry, big pharma, I know how much medicines can cost because what we pay here in Thailand for the same medicine that we pay exorbitant amount of money for back in the West, and what it can be sold for here because of the ability to pay. I know of instances where drug patents were running out and they would actually create new studies, because most of these studies are paid for with an intention, which are then given to get approval and stuff. Well, new studies came out when the drug was getting ready to lose its patent that there was actually side effects, and it was actually not allowed to be sold anymore. So what they did is created a new drug, the same company, and got approval for it to replace the one that no longer had the patent. So anyway, this is just the way things work. If you look at the medical universities, they're funded by these big pharmaceutical companies. So anyway, I won't go into all that. Just know it. You know, I don't get angry at it or anything. It's a reality. So if you understand the background, how things are working, it helps you to realize what your options are and why things are the way they are. And so that comes back to what I was doing, was thinking, okay, I had really bad acne when I was a kid, and I was given antibiotic therapy for it. Now, could that have created the problem? Some people say, no, this is hereditary. It has nothing to do with diet. Well, it's beg to differ. Now, heredity in genes and DNA and everything will or might create a weak link in your system. So what could manifest as a different malady in one person could manifest as something different in another person, depending on what that weakest link is. But for me, it was my digestive tract. So anyway, the more research I did about this, the more I realized that what was causing my issues were the bad bacteria in my intestinal tract that had proliferated. Now, if you disrupt the bacteria and you don't have that weak link and you have a good diet, and good diet I mean not a lot of refined carbohydrates and sugars and stuff, because that's what feeds the bad bacteria, then more than likely the balance of that flora will be reestablished in the normal balance that needs to be in, and there'll be no symptoms or problems. But in my case, it had blown up and the bad bacteria had taken over. What happens when the bad bacteria takes over? You stop digesting your food that you're consuming properly. People that have these diseases, they don't digest food. I lost, oh my God, in a matter of 2 months, I lost, 40 pounds or something. I was skin and bones. That's why, if you look at my videos and you say, why is JC's legs so skinny, like chicken legs? Because I lost not only the fat, but I lost muscle mass as well. And I never did recoup that in my legs. But anyway, so with me, I started looking at this and saying, okay, if it's the bacteria and I'm not digesting the food properly, and what happens if you don't digest food properly is you develop gases and acids in your intestinal tract that start to irritate the intestinal tract. And then naturally, out of a natural response in your intestinal tract, then you start producing mucus to protect the intestinal tract, which means what? You digest more or less of your food if you have this coating of mucus in your intestinal tract? Less. So now you're not digesting the foods properly and you're irritating your intestinal tract. And as it becomes more and more inflamed, you digest less and less of your food, which means you're starting to produce more and more of these acids and gases and things like that in the intestinal tract even more. It gets to a point where you start ending up with ulcerations in your intestinal tract, which then start to bleed, and it's just a downward spiral. Now, the funny thing about this is they give you drugs to take the inflammation out, but they also help to decimate the bacteria in the intestinal tract. That's why these people, and if you've got this disease or you know people that have it, you'll know that they're well as long as they stay on these drugs. And some of them you have to be weaned off, like corticosteroids. And as soon as they get weaned off of them, the problem comes back again. And I remember when I realized that, I said, okay, so I'm not digesting the food properly. And one of the reasons is because I don't have the proper flora in my intestinal tract to digest the food. How would I fix this? So I started thinking about this. And so what I did is created a model and then said, okay, what's working? What causes more symptoms? And matched it to this theory or this idea I had about how to get well. And what I did was said, okay, a couple of things have to happen. I need to digest the food that I'm taking in. And don't feed the bad bacteria, but put in good bacteria. Replenish the good bacteria. Don't feed the bad bacteria, because they're what's proliferating at this point. And see what happens. So I started taking a digestive enzyme to digest food that I did eat because I had to eat. Now, the funny thing about the food is, too, because you lose weight so fast, they're trying to tell you need to keep weight on. You need to eat high carbohydrate foods, sugars, and ice cream, and these like Ensures and stuff, which is all sugar and stuff. Gee, I wonder why people don't get well. So I said, okay, feed the good, don't feed the bad, and digest what I'm eating. Okay, makes sense. So I started taking the digestive enzyme when I would eat, and I would eat good food, not foods that had a lot of fiber that was undigestible fiber, because that's irritants to the intestinal tract. But food with fiber, natural fibers, like when you take psyllium and things like that, it becomes like a mucus, like a jelly. And it's actually very soothing to the intestinal tract. Plus, it's got fiber, which is in what? Vegetables and fruits. Fruits have what? Sugars. Didn't want the sugars, but the vegetables would be okay. And I could cook them down soft enough and eat those. Protein. Are those high in carbohydrates or sugars? No. Could eat those. So I started thinking, okay, don't eat foods with carbohydrates. And I have all the references. I have a protocol I said that I created for this. And at the end, I give a list of all the references where I got all this information. It's not just me. I just put the pieces together. You'd be amazed at how much information and research has been done about this. So anyway, take the digestive enzyme. Replenish the bacteria in the intestinal tract. So I took these supplements that had a broad spectrum probiotics and replenished the flora in the intestinal tract. So the bottom line is I would digest the food that I was taking in, wouldn't eat carbohydrates that were high sugar, highly processed, anything like that. It's funny. A lot of people, I tell this to, I say, okay, this is what you need to do. Don't eat this food and eat this food. And they say, what do you mean don't eat that food? That's all I eat. I won't be able to eat anything. And I go, did the light bulb just go off? Shouldn't that be a clue right there as to what some of the challenges are in the diet? So anyway, I took a supplement, the acidophilus supplement, and this included, I wouldn't drink milk because milk has lactose, and so you didn't want to take that sugar in as well. So there I found myself replenishing the enzymes, not feeding the bad bacteria, and digesting the food properly. I don't know if you know this, but in a matter of a couple weeks, you can replenish the lining in the intestinal tract. I started seeing results almost instantly. It was amazing. It was like a new life. If you can imagine the pain and suffering I'd gone through, and all of a sudden I started to get well. Well, my next appointment with my gastroenterologist, he said, how are you doing as normal? I said, I'm doing really good. He says, well, great. And I told him what I was doing. He says, oh, yeah, okay. He said, well, we need to do some tests so we can, again, know where you're at now. So in the future, we know from this point, are you getting better or worse? And I said, you don't want me to take those same tests that caused the exacerbation in the first place, do you? And he says, oh, yeah. And I said, no, I ain't going to happen. He says, well, if you don't do what I say, I can't be your doctor. And I said, okay. That was the last time I saw the doctor. And I wish I could show you. I have my medical records. The stack is this thick, medical records. So anyway, that was the last time I saw my gastroenterologist. Needless to say, I started to get well. And I started to put these pieces together even more, saying, okay, how can I expedite this? If this is the case, I just need to digest my food properly, replenish the bacteria, don't feed the bad bacteria. How can I do this? So even to this day, we make our own kefir, our own yogurt, so I'm always replenishing the bacteria, keeping it in. And so this has been a part of my life since then. I don't eat high sugar food. Every once in a while we do. Now the thing about this is, the cool part is that once you reestablish that balance again and your intestines get back to normal, I don't suggest you going back on a bad diet or killing all the good bacteria again, but you know you have the roadmap of how to get well again. And so every once in a while I'd stray off of doing the right thing, and all of a sudden I'd say, oh, there's a little trace of blood in my stool again. Go right back. It's really diligent as to what I knew I should be doing, and it would go away. And so now, heck, for the last 15 years, 20 years, I've eaten anything I want. I don't worry about it. If I take antibiotics for some reason I have to, I immediately replenish all the bacteria again. I can eat any kind of fiber I want, any kind of hot food, spicy food, anything. Not an issue anymore. So if you know somebody that has these issues, or it's happening to you, I sympathize. I got to tell you, it is something that's horrific. I don't wish it on even an enemy. If this is the case, reach out to me. I'll give you that protocol. Now, I'm not prescribing anything. I'm not diagnosing anything. I'm not doing anything that could get me in legal trouble. I'm just sharing with you what I did and why I believe it worked. Funny thing is, I used to go to Crohn's and colitis meetings, a support group to help people. And then one day they brought in an MD, gastroenterologist, to speak. And I listened to what he was saying. And more information now has come out about this, about the relationship of bacteria to the intestinal tract and Crohn's disease and ulcerative colitis. But anyway, when he was finished talking, I raised my hand and said, I used to have full-blown, I told him all my symptoms, I had fistulas, I had everything. And said what I did, and my idea, and what I did to fix it, and I've been well and helped other people. And he says, he was really not happy about that. He said, well, maybe you should hang out a shingle, you'll make a lot of money. And I was like, oh man. But once you understand this dynamic, you'll start to see information and medical journals and stuff. I get information from medical journals and everything sent to me all the time. And you'll see, like one time, this was 20 years ago or something, I saw somebody said, we eat coconut macaroons and your symptoms of Crohn's disease dissipate. And it's like, okay, well, what's in coconut macaroons? Well, it turns out that coconut oil has lauric acid in it. Lauric acid's an anti-inflammatory, antifungal. I mean, you'll start to see how all the things that come out, they say, make people better. It fits this whole concept or idea. And stress is a big thing. You got to be careful about stress. Stress exacerbates this, just like it does anything. It changes your immune system. So I've done videos about stress. Try and stay chilled. Don't get too upset about things. And how this relates to living in Thailand. Be careful what you believe that people are telling you. We tend to gravitate towards information that reinforces our established and current beliefs. And so if you have a negative idea of Thailand or its people, you're going to gravitate more towards that information. If you feel good about the country and the people, you're going to look for information about that. But take it all with a grain of salt. Come over yourself, experience the people and the place, and make up your own mind. But always focus on what is your outcome, and then think about alternative ways or options on how to reach that. And for me, that's what I did. I reached out and said, okay, I know what my goal, my outcome is. Let me take charge of this. Let me figure out what people did before there were these drugs, and it all worked for me. And I'm living proof of it. I have other people that have done this and gotten well. And so I hope it helps out anybody you know, the information. And just remember, when it comes to getting well, getting fit, getting your mind in the right place, there's what?
Always options.
That's right, always options. So be careful what options you choose. Make sure they support you and your outcomes. Didn't talk too much than that today. But anyway, the scenery all around me is beautiful. So I hope you've enjoyed it. I hope it's been informative. And again, if you have any questions or comments, put them into the comment section. Make sure to subscribe and like and all that other good stuff. See ya. Hey, JC here. If you like that video, make sure to give us a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel here. Also, we have another video up here you're going to be really interested in watching as well. And if you're looking for all the details of how to retire in Thailand in one place, plus a group of people to support you, check this out over here. Give it a click.